Welcome back, guys. So, if you've been watching along, we're currently doing a series on software design patterns. So, today we're going to talk about the adapter design pattern. So, what is the adapter design pattern? The adapter design pattern basically allows objects with incompatible interfaces to collaborate together. So, what that means is, and you know what? Let me give you a real world example. I'm just going to jump straight into the code. So currently I have a MacBook Pro. So let's create a class and let's call this class. Before we even do that, let's create an interface. So we're going to create an interface and we're going to call this the iMacBook Pro. Okay, so the iMacBook Pro interface. And in this interface, we have a USB Type-C. So we're going to say use USB-C port. Okay, and that's going to return a string. Now, I have a headset that I would like to connect to my MacBook Pro, but I cannot connect it to my MacBook Pro because my headset is a USB headset. And the MacBook Pro does not have any USB ports. So we're going to create another interface here, and we're going to call this the iHeadset interface. And then I'm just going to say use USB port. So this one does not use USB-C, but in fact it uses regular USB. All right, so now that we have these interfaces, let's create the class. So we're going to create a class and we're going to call this the MacBook Pro class. And this MacBook Pro class is going to implement the iMacBook Pro interface. Now, of course, this has a function called the use USB-C port, and it requires that we return a string. So here we're going to say using the USB-C port. Okay. And now we're going to create another class. We're going to call this the headset class, and this is going to implement the iHeadset interface. So in this headset interface, it uses a USB port. So here we're going to say using USB port. Perfect. Okay, so now we have a MacBook Pro class and a headset. However, we still cannot plug the headset into this MacBook Pro. The reason why is because, again, the MacBook Pro that I have only has USB Type-C ports. So in this particular case, we need an adapter. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a class and we're going to call this the USB to USB-C adapter. And this is going to implement the MacBook Pro interface. The reason why is because we're trying to plug into that MacBook Pro, okay? So we do know already that iMacBook Pro interface requires that we use a USB Type-C port. So we're going to create a function that's called USB-C port, okay? So now that we have that function, we're going to create a constructor here. And in this constructor, we're actually going to pass in the device that we are trying to use. In this case, we're trying to use a type of a headset. Okay, and then here we're going to create a variable for the public scope of USB to USB-C adapter. And this is also going to be of type headset. Now in the constructor, we want to assign this.device equal to the device that we passed in the constructor, right? So basically it's our headset. And now finally, inside of this use USB-C port, what we're going to want to do is we're going to first, let's create a console log and let's say converting to USB type C. Okay, so that's the first thing we're doing. So in the real world, you would be doing some sort of logic here to actually handle the conversion, right? And now after we do that, we're going to say this.device. So we're referencing the device that was passed into the constructor. So that's our headset. And we are going to say use the USB ports of the headset, okay? And now that we used it, we converted it, we used it, we're going to return a string and we're going to say using the USB, whoops, I can't type today, type C adapter. Perfect. So that being said, if you've been following along, we had a MacBook Pro and we had a headset. The headset is a USB headset, so I cannot plug it in to this MacBook Pro. In order for me to plug it in, I need an adapter. The adapter has to be a USB to a USB Type-C adapter. And that's what I did here was I created that adapter. I did some logic here that allowed me to actually convert it under the hood. And then finally, we're now able to use the adapter. So how do we use this? We're going to say const adapter equals new USB to USB-C adapter. However, inside of here, it expects a device, so we're just going to give it a new headset. Now that we gave it the new headset, we're going to say adapter dot use USB-C port. And we're going to wrap this around a console log here. Whoops. And we should say console.log. Wrap it around. And there you go. So once we run this, you'll notice that first it's converting to USB Type-C. And then finally, it's using the USB Type-C adapter. So we were able to connect our headset through this USB to USB-C adapter by doing all of this logic here. I hope you guys learned something. I know it's a lot to take in, but hopefully this explained it very well or good enough for you guys to understand what the adapter pattern is for and when to use it. So just to recap, the adapter pattern is basically in order for us to not touch any of this logic or any of this logic and be able to actually adapt to the interface that we're trying to, shape shift into, okay? So if you like this kind of content, make sure you hit that like button, the subscribe, click the bell for notifications. I'll be making more videos like this. And the next up, I will be doing more design pattern videos. So stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon.